I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be why most people are literally rotting to death from the inside out prematurely and decades before their bodies should be wearing out. Now, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to talk about health and your body, because if you're trying to improve the relationship or your pickup skills or the dating area of your life, or if you're trying to improve your business, or you're trying to convince investors to invest in your business, or you're trying to remain sharp and focused and full of energy, focused on the things that are important to you in life, if your body's fucked up, if your health is messed up, it's going to affect every single area of your life. If you're out of shape and you're unhealthy, or your body is toxic, it's going to affect your sex drive. It's going to affect how you feel. The other day I was doing a phone session with a guy who's actually in the Middle East in a really conservative Muslim country, and we were talking, and he said it's just sometimes he gets to the point where he just feels like really depressed, really sad, really unhappy, even though he knows he has things going great in his life. And he says, what could be causing that? And I said, well, there's two things. The first one, obviously, is that if you're not cleansing and detoxing your body properly, at least twice a year, then what happens is, basically, when we eat, the diet that most people around the world eats, usually rich in proteins, carbs, rice, some kinds of grains or bread, things of that nature, lots of sugar, because, pretty much when you look at, especially like in the West here, it's like sugar's added to everything that you buy. And very few people ingest enough vegetables or vegetable juice to maintain a healthy diet. And so most people are eating a diet that's like 95% acid-forming foods, proteins, carbohydrates, sugars, pasta. Anytime you cook food or you process food, even when you're cooking vegetables, what happens is when it goes into your digestive system, your body surrounds that food with mucus. And as the mucus then goes into your small intestine, which I think is like 25 feet long, and then your large intestine is I think like 3 feet. It's basically the sewer system of your body. And so this is the interesting thing that happens here, and why it's important to understand how your body works, because most people, they're backed up and they're toxic, and it causes them their mental clarity to be off. And just like this client of mine was asking me why he sometimes just feels like shit even though he has no reason to, it's one of two reasons. Either your body is toxic and you got food preservatives floating around in your bloodstream, or whatever it happens to be from the food that you ate, or the Big Mac attack that you had the other day, or the growth hormones or the steroids that were given to the animal that became your meal. That stuff bounces around in your body. When your body doesn't have enough high energy, high nutrient foods to neutralize those toxins and safely put them in the bloodstream and remove from the body, it has to park it in your body. And so when this stuff's floating around, obviously it's gonna make you feel kind of like if you've ever gotten drunk or had a hangover, and like the next day you feel kind of groggy and you got a headache, or you feel lightheaded and you have a hard time concentrating. Well, those toxins that you ingest when you do that stuff, if you're not getting the right foods in your body, it has to park it in the fat tissues of your body. Now, normally, under normal, healthy conditions, we tend to eat more grains and nuts and stored things that tend to be more acidic in the winter, smoked meats, those kind of things. And then in the summer, when it's warm, we tend to get more green vegetables and stuff like that. And so normally during the winter, we're building up this stuff. And then during the summer, we're eating more green vegetables and things. And so we're ingesting the minerals and the vitamins that our body needs to neutralize the acids and the stuff that we basically stored over the course of the winter. Cholesterol lining our arteries to keep the acid in our blood from literally burning through our arteries and causing us to bleed to death internally. So what happens is this stuff, we literally pee and shit the stuff out. And so the other thing it could be, with like this particular client of mine, he was asking me, I said the other thing is that you're just not authentically being present with your emotions. And because when an emotion happens, whether it's negative, whether it's anger, or it's sadness, or depression, and whatever negative emotion, like especially for us guys, we're not supposed to feel those things because we're supposed to be tough. And so what's interesting about our body is that when something happens and we get really angry or we get really fearful, and instead of dealing with the fear or being authentically present with that emotion like children are with their emotions, in essence, what happens is the energy is created, and since we don't experience it in our nervous system, it gets stored as muscle tension in our nervous system. And what's interesting is every one of the vertebrae on our back is associated with a different part of our personality. And so over time, when that energy comes up from an emotion or a feeling and it's not safe, or we're busy at work and we don't have time to deal with it, we just kind of like stuff it down inside. So what happens is it literally causes the muscles around that area of the spine to tense up, to become hard, and to flex. It's what's called being in a stressed response. And so what happens is like when the same kind of traumatic event happens over and over and over, like you're being verbally abused when you're a child growing up, or you're constantly feeling depressed because your parents are fucked up and don't know how to love you or show affection towards you, and so you just go through life feeling like crap all the time. Literally what happens is the muscles around that vertebrae, they get hard. And it's like if you've ever you've been washing your car and you had a garden hose in the driveway and you stepped on the garden hose when you're wearing a pair of shoes, and you notice how the water flow gets dramatically reduced. That's in essence what happens to all of the nerves that come out of the vertebrae. What happens is when the muscles tense up like that, it causes the brain to lose its connectivity to whatever organs happen to be at the other end of those nerve endings. And so as we age, that muscle tension builds up, and it causes what's called armoring of the spine. And so all the muscles around that area become so hard and so locked that your brain doesn't even know that those muscles are continuously being fired. And so as the decades roll on, you literally, what happens is your body will start converting the cartilage, especially like if you're hunched over, it'll convert the cartilage into bone, and it'll literally fuse those vertebrae together. And think about this. I mean, we all know, like if you were to do this right now, if you were like to stand up and stand in a state where like a depressed person stands in, what happens is they tend to be looking at the ground. Can you imagine when your physiology that literally gets locked in, and that's pretty much all you can feel and experience your whole life. And so here's an important thing to understand about the diet that we're eating. And so when we eat stuff that's cooked or processed in some way, our body surrounds it with mucus. And over the decades, what usually happens is as that stuff is going through our small intestine, our colon, is that some of that mucus is going to stick to the intestinal walls. And because we're constantly eating foods that tend to be more acidic, I definitely recommend you should read Dr. Robert O. Young's book, The pH Miracle, if you haven't yet. And also, before you do anything that I'm suggesting here, consult with your health professional and your doctor or your health care provider. And so what happens is we're eating this acidic food, and it goes through our intestines. It's constantly depositing mucus and parts of protein or that Big Mac that you ate the other day. Little pieces of it just kind of get stuck in the mucus, and over time that stuff hardens. It literally gets locked and stuck to the walls of our small intestine and our colon. And you can imagine over the decades, it's like constant layers of that stuff gets deposited in there. And so you got to think of your intestinal system as like a sewage treatment plant, or if you're familiar with how homes are constructed, like a septic tank system. And basically how a septic tank system works is you got the lines that go from your kitchen sink and the toilet and the washing machine, and they all go out to this concrete box that sits in the backyard, and it's usually buried in the ground. And about halfway up, it has a pipe, and that pipe goes to what's called a drain field. And the drain field is basically a pit that's been dug, and this pipe is surrounded with, it has perforations, it has holes in it, and it's all surrounded by gravel and then a thick fabric so dirt and sediment can't settle in. And so what happens is the heavy stuff sinks to the bottom of the septic tank, and then halfway up, the normal water will slowly float out into the drain field and drain, and the stuff basically decays into your yard. Now just imagine your body here, we'll use this as a metaphor. You go to work one day, and while you're away, it's like, just imagine you get up in the morning and you go and you say you went and you had a Big Mac attack, or you went to Taco Bell and you're just fucking shitting your brains out. I know this is gross, but just go with me for a little bit. You're shitting your brains out, and then your wife goes up in the morning and she ate the same kind of food. She takes a massive dump, and then your kids take a massive dump. And then it's like, so everybody leaves the house. So while you guys are all away, the septic system goes bad. The drain field just gets clogged up because it's just, it's old, and eventually it clogs up. And so what happens is the septic, it rains a lot, and so the thing literally backs up, and all the Big Mac attack, the Taco Bell attack that you had the night before, it's like all that stuff backs up into your house. Now just imagine coming home, and normally you're going to clean all this stuff out, but obviously this is the internal state of your body, and so your septic system, it's like, because your what you call it, obviously your heart has a pump that pumps blood. Well, your lymphatic system requires the muscles, movement of the muscles to properly drain, and that drains into your colon. Now you can imagine over the decades as your body's filling up with this impacted mucus and feces, it's just a breeding ground for bacteria. What happens then? It's like your septic system backs up all throughout your body, and so you come home, you take a plunger, and then you get the clog out or whatever it happens to be, and then everything goes back down. But just imagine that you never go around and clean all the stuff that's in your house. So you can imagine your living room, what's left of that undigested Big Mac that you ate, that's sitting in the room all moist and wet and full of bacteria. And so that continues to sit there and fester and get disgusting and stink because, again, you didn't really do a good job of cleaning your house out when all that stuff backed up, and so you're just kind of walking around in there. Imagine sleeping in that stuff, or sleeping next to the turd, or all. I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, if you've ever been in a crack house, you kind of know that people, they shit in buckets or they shit in piles next to their bed, and they don't care because they're all fucked up and drugs, and it doesn't bother them. That's in essence what happens to our bodies because of how we eat. So think about this. So if we never detox our digestive system, the mucus eventually builds up to the point where it clogs up the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system is where most of all of our cells secrete their waste in the fluid form. And so what happens is all this stuff backs up, our lymphatic system backs up, and you get things like, because what happens is the cells, in order to stay alive, they adapt to the acidic environment, and then they form what's called cancer cells. You can actually see this on Dr. Young's work. I actually have videotapes of myself personally that we can actually see this happening, where a healthy red blood cell turns into a rod bacteria or a cancer cell. It's called pleomorphism. And so literally what happens is our sewer systems back up internally. If you've ever seen old people and you look at their skin, it's like dried and it's like constantly flaky in areas. What happens is toxins that have the same charge are going to be drawn to the same part of the body. And so once the sewer system backs up, literally you fill up with the sewage that you can't get rid of, and so your body starts rotting from the inside out. And so what happens is, like during the holidays, it's like you're drinking excessively, you're eating lots of sweets, you're not exercising as much because it's cold as fuck out, you don't want to go out and exercise, and then you're around your family, and so you're stressed out, and then of course somebody comes in the room and they've got a flu bug, and since your body is so busy dealing with all the toxic bacteria in your body because your septic system is backed up in essence, it's just too much, and it can't handle it, and so you get the flu, and the flu is nothing more than your body trying to rebalance itself, and so you puke, you get cold sweats, you get diarrhea, you vomit, you have mucus coming out of all of your orifices. That's what happens. And so I encourage you, if you want to cleanse this stuff out and be as healthy as you can and be as sharp as you can, so you're not rotting to death like most people are, is you should use some of the colon cleanse products that I talk about in my article, which I'll put a link to on this article page, called Death Begins in the Colon. So if you Google Corey Wayne, Death Begins in the Colon, I go into detail how to detox and flush this stuff out, because this is so important. Because if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter if you're dating the hottest woman in the world. Your life is not going to be what it could be. It's going to impact your sex life. It's going to impact how you feel. It's going to affect your business. It's going to affect your ability to work. You're going to need excessive amounts of sleep when you could be getting by on a lot less sleep and really enjoying your life more. I mean, I could go on and on about this stuff, but this is something that's so critically important because people are literally rotting to death and dying decades before they should be, and missing out on all kinds of great things that they could be experiencing in life. So if you want my help, if you want me to personally consult with you to teach you how to detox and cleanse your body, or incorporate a health regimen that works for you, go to my website, click the products tab, and book a paid phone coaching session right now. And I will talk to you soon.